Hello everybody, Randy Patrick here. Time for Housing Bubble 2.0 News of the Week, or as I like to call it, another episode of As the Housing Market Turns. Again, today a pretty good news day as far as I'm concerned that sort of indicates where the housing market is currently headed. We're going to talk about a few of those things today. Other issues as well too, which I'll get into towards the end of the video. So number one piece of news here is U.S. pending home sales dropped the most since early 2018. So of course, that's interesting because why? Well, pending home sales really are contract signings to purchase previously owned U.S. homes, and they fell in July by the most since early 2018, indicating a pause in buyer interest even against a backdrop of falling mortgage rates. So once again, we have that sort of phrase, despite lower interest rates, despite lower mortgage rates. So even though we've got lower mortgage rates now and it's very competitive out there, people are not coming to the table to purchase property, simple as that. And basically, so the pending home sales is produced by National Association of Realtors, known as NAR, and it's actually a pending home sales index. So there's not a true number that they provide, but they provide an index. And the index basically said sales decreased 2.5% from the previous month's data. All right, and I know that that's month to month. So from June to July, it decreased 2.5%, and the year-over-year contract signings fell 0.3%. So really, not much activity has changed. It's pretty, I guess you could say, pretty stagnant and a little bit of a loss as far as they're concerned. So once again, super low mortgage rates have not consistently pulled buyers back into the market, said Lawrence Yun, who's the NAR's chief economist. Economic uncertainty is no doubt holding back some potential demand, but what is desperately needed is more supply of moderately priced homes. And we know that supply is not coming on the market anytime soon. So we seem to be in this holding pattern. We're going to see sales erode more and more, and we're not going to see more supply coming on. So it's going to be kind of this spinning circle we're going to be stuck in here. Basically, as I said before, pending home sales are a lead indicator of future closings. So obviously, if pending home sales are down, future closing numbers will be down. So we shouldn't be surprised by that, and this sort of indicates the health of the real estate market. Just on another note here, signings decreased in all four regions. So NAR breaks down the country to four housing regions. So again, the decrease in all four regions led by a 3.4% drop in the West. Pending home sales in the South, the biggest region, decreased 2.4%. And if I look a bit more here, I know that, give me a sec, we know that Northeast fell 1.6%, and the West 3.4%, and I think I'm trying to find the Midwest here. Midwest index dropped 2.5%. So basically, we have every region kind of losing steam with respect to pending home sales. So that's kind of indicative of what is happening in our market. And on another note, which I found interesting, a separate report Thursday on gross domestic product showed housing construction contracted for the sixth straight quarter. So we're talking about what's Lawrence Yun of Realtor.com saying, or NAR. He's basically saying we need more moderately priced homes to bring the buyers back in the market. Well, we're not seeing that because prices are too high. And then when you take a look at the builders, we know they're not building like they used to, especially and they're not building as many affordable homes. And when you see the sixth straight construction contraction, that's affecting the volume and opportunities of homes that are on the marketplace here. So there you go. That was the number one news of the day. I found this interesting. It says mortgage defaults rise for the first time since the last financial crisis. So this was according to a study done by Black Knight Financial, and they said defaults are up for the first time since the Great Financial Crisis. But as rates fall, a refi surge will also help millions, which we know. But it definitely shows here, and I'll post this chart on our community section. It just shows that you've got an actual sort of uptick since if we take where the last financial crisis was, defaults have been down. Now it's sort of popped up here now. So it's an actual uptick. Now, one of the things I want to say about Black Knight Financial is I always find that their data seems to be much more conservative. So when I look at things like, flipping reports and underwater reports and equity reports and things like that, like a group like, say, Atom Data Solutions tends to have a little larger or robust numbers. Black Knight tends to be smaller numbers and more conservative. So when they're saying that there's a first annual rise in default since the financial crisis, so basically we're talking a year-over-year increase, I'm pretty sure that that's accurate, and I would definitely sort of not hedge my bets, and I would sort of believe what they're saying here. The joke, though, here is that we call this affordability illusion, and that's what's happening right now in the marketplace. So, the media, people who are building homes, real estate agents, whatever it is, when interest rates drop, it's encouraging buyers to go out and buy more homes, etc. And they talk about rate dropping as being affordable. All right. So when the rate drops, homes become more affordable. Well, if homes didn't become more affordable, basically all that happened was interest rates dropped, so your monthly payment dropped. You're still paying the same price for a piece of property. So Black Knight says interest rates make homes more affordable, which is kind of a little bit of a misnomer there. The decline in 30-year rates has been equivalent to a 15% increase in buying power. So I guess you could say, technically speaking, that's the way it is, meaning that a prospective home buyer shopping for the average price home could now pay $45,000 more for a home than last fall by keeping their monthly payments the same. But I want to stress here that we're not confusing, I guess you could say, what a home is worth based on what you can afford of payments. If you're spending $300,000 for a home, whether your rate's 3.75 or 3.5, you still paid that much for a house. Yeah, your payments may be different, and that affects your cash flow and what's in your pocket at the end of the month, but certainly does not affect the actual affordability of the home. So again, that's the illusion that they're creating. Hey, when rates drop, everything's more affordable. Go out and buy. So again, not what we want to see here. And basically, with respect to the housing bubble, they call it housing bubble reblown here. That the Fed reblew the housing bubble. The last chance for a good price was 7 years ago. When, if you looked 7 years ago, you had sort of a convergence with respect to values, wages, incomes, job market, the whole bit. Now we have a much more divergent situation, and like we did back in the 2006 and 7 timeframe. So again, affordability based on declining interest rates is an illusion. That's why we're going to call it the affordability illusion. And people are shying away from the housing market really for one reason, which that's housing prices, sticker shock, unaffordability. Simple as that. So even though you have some rate decreases and some more buying power at your disposal, guess what? Doesn't change the purchase price of the house. So very interesting here. To follow that up here, the ratings group Fitch Ratings basically are throwing cold water on the presumed mortgage lending boom. Analysts cast doubt on positive impact of low rates on the housing market. So in a report published by Fitch Ratings this week, it suggests that the current low rate environment will not be enough to meaningfully spur housing market activity for the rest of the year. So obviously we're seeing that in new home sales declines. We're seeing that in pending sales and existing homes not doing as well as everyone would hope. Fitch suggests that there are 3 reasons. 1, not enough new homes being built to satisfy first-time home buyers, others who want a new home. 2, lenders are maybe unable to properly handle the increase in refinances due to the cutback made in anticipation of 2019 being a lackluster year. And 3, likelihood that many borrowers already refinanced a few years ago when rates were previously as low as they are now. Now, on the home sales front, they said it's now projecting housing starts to rise by 1% by the end of the year, and new home sales expected to be more than 2% over last year. Existing home sales, on the other hand, are expected to decline modestly this year due to, in part, to lack of inventory, but particularly at the lending at the entry level, the Fitch report states. So there you go. Now, to support that, despite mortgage rates plunging over the past little while, the refi boom has stalled and purchase applications continue to plunge. So, again, low rates aren't helping. Now we're seeing they've helped for a few people, but we're now seeing the actual results of all that in respect to the overall mortgage applications fell 6.2% last week from both a refi and a purchase, refi sliding 7.6%, and purchases sliding 4%, both in the negative, obviously. Purchase apps are back to their lowest levels in February, and this is according to Bloomberg, while rates have tumbled as a spark no incremental demand for new purchases. So I don't think we have to say it any other way. This has been bantered about for the past couple of months now about decreasing interest rates and maybe doing some more quantitative easing out there. So low interest rates, will help you on your refis and things like that, but really it's making no material increase to purchase contracts that are out there. So we know it's a price and affordability. We've known about that for a long time, but I think now the media is just getting that, and the general public is just getting that as well too. So this is the weakest purchase mortgage year since 2011, which of course, if you look back at 2011, what was happening in 2011? Well, we were in the trough, with the housing crisis, and that's when all the guidelines for all the mortgage companies were being tightened, excruciatingly tightened, and a lot of people who were trying to buy homes were having a hard time because of when you have I guess you could say relaxed mortgage guidelines and a crash. People who are looking for homes that aren't looking to speculate or invest or flip or whatever, they're paying the price on the tightening side. So this is the lowest purchased year since 2011. So please keep that in mind. All right, to sort of tie in with that, this is how home shoppers feel about the possibility of a recession. So Realtor.com every so often puts out surveys. They did one recently about a recession, and essentially what they say is increasing number of home buyers expect a recession in the next 3 years, but they remain optimistic that it will be less impactful and less dangerous or destructive as what was called the Great Recession back in the 2007-8 timeframe. And more than 36% of active buyers surveyed said they expect the next recession to begin in 2020, which is an increase of 6% from the previous time that they surveyed. So there you go. So again, it's just one of those things that what we're seeing is that when people have reservations about the economy, and that could be with respect to the overall economy, it could be tariffs, it could be trade wars, it could be political instability, it could be elections, whatever that people are facing. When the general public becomes less confident, and what do? They hunker down and they don't make big purchases, and you can see that is reflected in the housing market. So there you go. That's why we're this is again one of many contributing factors. But again, if you're on the sideline not knowing what to do, if you don't see things improving, you're not going to go make the biggest purchase of your life possibly. And coupled with the fact that if you don't believe housing prices are effective or cost effective for you right now, you're not going to overspend, because we all know at some point in time, the next little while, house prices and values will start to slide, and nobody wants to have what we call that proverbial catching a falling knife. You want to buy on the way down or at the down part, not when it's up here. Simple as that. Okay, real estate. Now, something I want to talk about here, which is not necessarily good news, but for those of you who don't know, because I do believe this is more regional with respect to news, Florida is looking at another hurricane hitting the coast, and there's a hurricane called Dorian that just sort of grazed by the island of Puerto Rico once again. It's hovering over the Atlantic now. It's a hurricane. It's Cat 1 hurricane, I believe, and it's expected to strengthen as it flies over the warm water towards the Bahamas and eventually hit the Florida coast. So, you can go to NHC. Trying to think, just type in Google National Hurricane Center, and that's going to give you a little bit of a map with a projection and time frames. I know you really can't see it here, but this is what the government produces, National Hurricane Center. So I look at this, and what it really does is basically shows you, it takes 8 a.m. 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Snapshots of where it is, the strength and the category of the hurricane, and where the expected path is. And then they have that thing called the cone, and the cone basically is, here's the hurricane, and there's this cone, and the eye of the hurricane in the middle could land here or to here, and everything in between. So that's kind of like what happens with hurricanes. So having said that, the issue is, Florida on the East Coast is going to get hit again. So it's either going to hit the East Coast of Florida, or if it, that's how it's kind of moving towards now, or if it turns up, it's going to hit South Carolina, Georgia, etc. So either way, once again, we're going to get battered with something. Expectations are that it's going to be a major hurricane when it hits landfall. So what happens now is that because we have all this information, because we have the internet, because we have news, all the stuff, so it's causing panic right now. This morning, I literally was out the door at our local Costco, grabbing water, gassing my car up, and things like that. Now, where I'm at on the Gulf side of Florida, when the hurricane hits the East Coast, we're going to start getting outer bands this weekend. And actually, the hurricane's slowing its progression, which unfortunately means it can strengthen more over the warm water. So it's expected to hit, Florida around 8 a.m. between Monday and Tuesday in that 24-hour period, and that's where the eye is going to hit. So obviously we're going to start getting outer bands over the weekend. We're going to see that. What typically happens is that we get a lot of rain, and obviously if you're in the coastal side where it hits, you've got the counterclockwise spin of the hurricane. Those of you in Florida will know exactly what I mean. So you're going to have storm surge depending on where you are on that counterclockwise spin. Depending on where you live, it sucks the water out of one area and pushes the water in higher in another area. When it hits landfall, it slows, and typically when it hits landfall, it gets downgraded to lesser hurricanes or a tropical storm, and then just dumps rain. And that's going to be the issue. Will be sort of localized flooding, storm surge, obviously localized flooding. So a lot of people out there right now are probably trying to hunker down, get their supplies. Eventually there'll be evacuations ordered for storm surge areas. As it moves its way across inland, again, it just depends on how fast it moves and how fast it dissipates. So I'm not too concerned on our side because we are on the other coast here on the west coast. But unfortunately, people on the east coast of Florida are going to get hit fairly hard. And again, we don't know when it makes landfall, what the category is going to be. And each category 1 through 5, really is based on wind speed and how that's how it hits. So that's what's going to happen. So the biggest questions are, where will it hit? That'll be determined when, Monday, Tuesday, sometime. The damage path is going to be in the cone. Flooding issues, as I said, will be localized flooding will be the main issue here. This will lead to more insurance claims because when every hurricane hits, we always find out that people tend to be underinsured with respect to their home insurance. Some people have flood policies, which are great if they're mandated by their mortgage company. Some, who are not may have flood policies. Just so you know, how can I put it? When real estate transactions occur here in our area, there's kind of like this grid, and it's like a box, sort of covers Florida, part of Georgia, whatever. And when there's a major storm in that grid, title companies do not do real estate closings. Reason being because insurance companies will not issue insurance on new properties once they close if there's a storm in that box. So if you don't know that, that's what happens. So if you were expecting to buy a property, in Florida this week or sell your property, you're probably going to be disappointed. And again, new insurance companies don't want to take the risk of a brand new storm, on a new buyer, etc. So again, we're going to see some insurance issues come out of that. Obviously, we'll have underinsured people after the fact, so that it's going to be some issues, and this always leads to more defaults. So the past couple of years, you just want to let everybody know that when there's been Houston, some of the storms last year, the storm in the Panhandle. So every year there's a hurricane or coastal flooding. We have defaults that happen pretty much right away, or and as time goes on, the government typically allows what's called a forbearance. So if you have an FHA loan and your lender too, well, if you call your lender, contact your lender, you can actually defer your payment while, because of the hurricane. However, you have to pay it once the deferment is over. So you got to be saving the money. So if you have a job situation where you're paid and, if you work hourly and you work in an environment where, you have to be outside or your hourly operation or whatever you're doing, is closed and you're not getting paid for that, then, the government will, and your lender will allow you some, like, okay, you don't pay this month or whatever it is, but again, it will catch up. So you have to keep that in mind. And just one thing I do want to mention just triggered me here when I speak about going back to defaults, because obviously we spoke about defaults increasing for the first time since the last financial crisis. I want to make a note here that the first annual rise in defaults since the last financial crisis is excluding any impact from the hurricane season. So what they've done is they've taken away, in this analysis, they've taken away hurricane affected defaults, and this is just pure defaults for normal economic reasons. So there was a first year-over-year increase in defaults non-hurricane, so taking out the hurricane stuff, all right, which to me, that hurricanes just add on and make it worse. But again, this is kind of our situation. So we've had an increase in defaults. That's why I want to talk about the hurricanes. So we certainly pray that it doesn't hit hard and the people on the east coast of Florida evacuate, hunker down, stay safe, etc. Do the right things. Get your gas, get get your plywood, get your water, do it now. If you need to vacate, do it sooner than later, because people wait too long and the highways are jammed and the whole bit. So again, something that's not that much fun to go through, but we go through it every year basically. And again, relating this just to the defaults as well too. So we'll probably see some more, and that's just part of life in the Florida area, coastal areas, things like that. So anyway, everybody, that's it for this week. I probably won't do another video until early next week. So we'll see. Maybe that'll be a post-hurricane video. We'll see what's going on. If you like what you hear and you'd like to keep up with all the information on the real estate market, please subscribe. I'd be most appreciative if you did that. Again, thank you for the views, the comments, the likes. Please share the video. That helps our channel grow. With regards to our conversations, yes, people have inquired. Next couple of days and this weekend, I'll be getting back to a lot of people. I know a lot of you have inquired. Been a busy week, a lot of stuff on the go here. If you have housing questions or concerns, please drop me an email. Want to learn how to never pay retail? I'm still working on that product right now, so that's gaining a lot of steam here. A lot of people have given me a lot of great questions and content requests that I'm working on, so we'll start to deploy that very shortly. If you want to know more about that, please contact me. If you want to know more about defaults and short sales and investing or finding your home through that method, please contact me as well, because I can help you, train you, give you advice, show you how to do it, essentially help you buy stuff in the Tampa Bay area as well too. So anyway, that's the scoop for today, and I forgot to mention the date. Today is Thursday the 29th, I believe. There you go. Too much on the go these days. That's the way it goes in the housing world. So anyway, thanks very much. Look forward to talking to you next week.